to welcome the absolutely delightful Gemma Fairclough-Haynes. Hello Gemma, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Excited to be back at Business Bunker.
Yeah, you have been on before, haven't you? It was a long time ago, and in our Dimchurch studio, I think. Yeah.
A bit more spacious in here.
It's
very
a bit
sophisticated. Well.
Yeah, it's a bit cooler as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit cooler.
We've got extremes. In Dimchurch, you have to sit there in your skivvies, don't you?
Yeah.
Because it's so hot, it's unbelievable. Here it's so cold, you have to wear a woolly vest even at the height of summer. Yeah. But anyway, enough of that. Gemma is behind Orchard Law, the HR law consultancy, and is an expert on employment law. So why don't you tell the listener a little bit more about you and about what you actually do, Gemma?
Oh, well, what I do is I'm about educating business owners. I really work business to business. It's about helping them to understand the employment law so they don't fall foul of some of the common,
Martin.
less common, common pitfalls.
Yeah.
And really feel like getting the basics in place is really important. But also other things that you might not think of. So at the moment, I've got a blog out about Halloween, which everyone's like, yeah, great fun. But in that blog, I talk about some of the things which can go wrong. Everyone thinks it's fun, and it's not about raining on your parade. It's just about being aware, you know. So yeah.
It is, but you're absolutely right in what you said though. There, Emma, is a lot of people go, do you know what, this is all just so politically correct and it's so difficult and all the rest of it, and every time you try and do anything, you know, people, and there's also a lot of myths where you get the perennial myth that is trotted out every year alleging that Birmingham City Council have stopped calling it Christmas and calling it Winterval, which is a myth and always has been a myth. So you're absolutely right, but it isn't about stopping people doing things, is
Not
it?
at all. It's about finding pragmatic solutions and things that work within your business. So, yesterday, for instance, someone sent me over an employment contract and said, "What do you think of this?" And I said, "Yeah, it's fine. It's actually perfectly compliant, but there's a whole bunch of legal jargon in there, which I'm sure your employees don't understand." And then another thing as well, just to give people a heads up, is they had in there, 1 week's notice up to 2 years service, which fine, but how's that going to affect your business if you've got someone that's been there for 20 months, is an integral part of your team, and then comes in on Monday and says, "Oh, by the way, next Monday I won't be here." So if you want to get rid of people, yes, fine, 1 week's notice is great, but you've got to think about the flip side of things.
Exactly, and that's where so many people get this wrong, don't they? It's a two-way street. A contract always involves two parties, and there's two ways of doing anything. We've just been looking at some premises and talking about leases, and at break clauses, and people go, but the break clause works both ways. If we're unhappy, we can leave.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, they can put the rent up, but if we don't like that, we can leave.
Get up and go. Packing my bags.
Yeah, exactly. And people don't always think about both sides of a contract, do they?
No, and I think there's a fear. Around a lot of business owners about the law, and I think you don't need to be fearful. Just get informed. And so I help them with that. I help them with documentation advice, and more recently been doing quite a few workshops. That's proved quite fun as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's as you know, I think you might be booked on it as well. I've got an event happening on the 7th of November, which is in special employability. And it's about employing people that have supported needs at work. And it's an area, again, that a lot of people have tried to avoid because there's a lot of myths about what you have to provide for people. And we're doing this in conjunction with Kent County Council Supported Employment Group, who are going to dispel some of those myths, plus also tell you what is actually available to help you employ people with supported needs. But in this day and age, when we have such massive skill shortages, avoiding a whole huge part of the population because they have supported needs is unbelievable. And I think it was you, Gemma, that sent me a link on Twitter yesterday from The Guardian.
Yeah, that was a good article, wasn't it?
It was a brilliant article, wasn't it?
Yeah, what they were saying is that typically people with Asperger's and autism, they don't interview very well, and I say very well, to what we consider to be very well. So they get missed out of the employment pool, but they have such skills and attention to detail, and they think outside of the box that you're doing yourself an injustice by not taking these people on.
Absolutely, and I'm sure he won't mind mentioning, but Ben Leach, who runs BLIT Systems, suffers with Asperger's. And he had enormous problems where he worked before, where he was bullied because of his Asperger's, and he chose to start his own business. which is an incredibly brave thing to do. But he's got a fabulous business running there because, as you quite rightly say, Gemma, he's got all the skills that it needs. He just doesn't interview very well. So we're running an event on the 7th of November about that kind of thing.
I'll be there.
And you're going to be there, which is lovely. Thank you. But again, you know, there's a whole heap of fear and uncertainty and doubt around people employing people with supported needs.
Yeah, and sometimes you employ people and you don't know that they have supported needs because, of course, you can't ask the question before the interview. You mustn't ask the question.
What's wrong with you then?
No. But sometimes you employ people and then you find out afterwards that they have supported needs. So, for instance, on the 3rd of November, I'm speaking at the Medway Dementia Alliance, because that's another thing.
Absolutely.
You know, that dementia is something that, you know, people are getting younger and younger.
Yeah.
And it's just about making you aware and telling you what you can do, how you can support them, and you know how they can be instrumental in your business. Yeah,
it's about breaking down the myths, the perceptions, and the barriers, isn't it? And as you're quite right. I mean, with things like Alzheimer's and dementia, it's probably unusual to find someone that isn't touched by that in some way. You know, we all have members of family or people that we know, friends or whatever, increasingly, because it is something that affects people throughout life. You know, a lot of people tend to assume it's an old person's kind of disease, but it isn't. No. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. And just while Emma's mentioning that...
Gemma.
Gemma, what did I call you?
It's Emma.
It's all right, Pauline. Don't worry.
I'm always dropping my J's. Yeah. Gemma.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is there still a lot of? Can I ask a question? Is there still a lot of? So I mean, I guess the answer is yes, but is there still a lot?
There's more Emmas.
There's still a lot of stigma attached to disability.
I think there is, and as I say, in society in general, I think we're getting better. But in the workplace, we worry about being sued for disability discrimination, and it's this, you know. I'll use technical term as reasonable adjustments. You've got to do things to help people with disabilities, whether they're physical or hidden disabilities, to be able to have the same standard of work as everybody else. So people think, oh my goodness, and if someone's got a disability, I can't get rid of them. You can actually. I'm not telling you to do it, but actually if someone's not performing, they're not performing. But it's about putting things in place.
Gemma is absolutely right, and that's the big issue. It's about the myths and the fear factor. And so many people try to run away from it because they think it's difficult or complicated or confusing or expensive or whatever, and it's none of those things. There are people out there that have supported needs, that have fabulously brilliant talents in different areas, and it's just about recognising that diversity and that ability and managing it. But people, as always, because they don't understand the law, they don't understand HR, they think, you know, they're on a hiding to nothing.
The media doesn't help, doesn't it? Because you always see these cases where someone's won some ridiculous sum of money. You just think, oh my goodness, that could be me.
But there are employers out there who do genuinely embrace it, and I mean, I'm thinking about the likes of Tesco, for example, who, you know, when I walk around Tesco, you know, clearly Tesco has made a conscious effort to actually employ people who have got disabilities. And I actually, I actually sort of really warm to that. If I see that in a workplace, if I see an employer that's made that effort, I actually really warm to that, and I warm to that business, and I warm to that brand. So I actually see it in the opposite way.
One of the issues is, and I think this is where Gemma and what she does really does come to the fore, though, because big organisations like Tesco's have massive HR departments and massive legal departments. They're used to doing things like that. But the reality of life in the 21st century is 90% of all new job creation is within small and medium-sized businesses. And those small and medium-sized businesses don't have HR departments, they don't have legal representation, and they're the people that run away from it because they're just not sure. And that's where someone like Gemma comes to the fore.
Exactly, and we're kind of about, you know, being in the middle of that gap, plugging that gap where you might not want to, or you might not be able to afford to have a full-time HR department or consultant. And so, you know, Orchard Employment Law helps you in that way. It's not as expensive having somebody full-time, but you still get all the expertise, someone you can call or email, you know. And I like the personal touch as well. I'm always about speaking to people and talking to them like humans in language which they understand.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing is, of course, really what you're going to offer them is exactly what they need, whether they're hiring people that they would normally hire, or somebody with supported needs, it's still the same issue.
Yeah.
You still need a contract of employment. There's still the same rules to comply with.
Yeah.
So it's not as if it's any more difficult to do. It's just it's a perception thing all the time, and of course so many people make the mistake of not bothering up front. You know, they offer someone a job, because I saw another one of these media things the other day, that some company got fined for offering a job and then withdrawing it. Yeah.
So a lot of people don't realise that you can still be sued before you have hired somebody.
Yeah.
So for instance, you know, if you were to take somebody or have an interview with somebody and realise that they've got a disability and say to them, or realise that they're pregnant and go, actually, we really liked you, but you know that big bump you've got there, that's going to be a bit of a problem for us. So that relationship has already started. So you can, you know, there was I think the last time I spoke about it, there was that woman who was a serial litigant. She used to go around. She was a hairdresser, but she wore a hijab, and the hairdressers always wanted to see her hair. And I think she sued 4 or 5 employers, or would-be employers, for not getting the job beforehand. So, you know, and even in I've got a YouTube video actually about how to avoid discrimination during recruitment, saying things like, "I want a waitress," which implies you want a female, not a male, or a busboy. Yeah, you know, it's those little things.
Yeah.
As somebody said to me this morning at my networking meeting, where there's blame, there's a claim.
Yeah. It's true. It's one of the things that it has taken things the other way. Yeah, because a lot of people, you know, and I hear what Gemma is saying about that, but that is one of the things that drives people nuts. You know, there are certain job titles that you just use without really thinking about it. Yeah, and you go, "I want a waitress." Yeah, you don't necessarily mean that you need to employ a lady to do it, but it's just, you know, shorthand for what you want. And then that's what scares people, is that they make innocent mistakes and then get, you know, well and truly done by the law, which they can't afford. And I think it's that kind of thing that we need to fix. I'll tell you the story, because I don't mind telling you the story, because it was hilarious. I got a letter, as the publisher of a recruitment website, I'm liable for what is published on my site. And I got a letter from the Equalities Commission one day threatening to fine me for having a job in Polish on the site, okay? And it was a really rude letter. And because I've been around a long time, I happen to know they've got no jurisdiction and they're not a legal organisation, and they have no right to fine me anyway, even if I was wrong, but whatever. They sent me this really sniffy letter. So I wrote back to them and said, why have you sent me this letter? I'm perfectly entitled to put a job ad in Polish on my website. What I suggest you do is find someone that speaks Polish and actually get the advert read to you. Yeah. And why? And I said, because the job's in Poland, in Warsaw, for a Polish company. That's why. And they went, okay.
Yeah, and it really is, you know, it's just about understanding. On the flip side of that, you've got fear of hiring people, you've got fear of getting rid of people as well. And a lot of problems, I mean, I do tribunal representation as well, so a lot of the problems, I think, well, this could have been prevented if you'd got rid of that person. Clearly wasn't up for that job, or wasn't right for your business quite early on. So as well, it's about, you know, not having that fear and taking control of your business, because it is your business at the end of the day.
You know, can I come in at this point, because there's a lot of talk about the prospective employee and employers facing problems. But one of the things that I've found, and I've had the benefit of referring Gemma on to a client that I'm working with. One of the benefits is that when you are growing your business, a lot of the headache that you take away is emotional stuff, and just having somebody clarify to you, actually, no, you're not getting it wrong. No, it's not as complicated as you're worried about. Can actually take away a lot of the fear, so that you as a business person, as an entrepreneur wanting to drive your business forward, makes you that much more confident, and you can actually go forward having dispelled the myths. And I think there's a huge benefit in just getting that clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. And as an employer myself, and an employer of many years standing, and I've been in court a few times in my days. One of the things that you learn is that all of this is about process. It's about having the right processes and methods in place. And if you start off with that in place in the first place, it's quite hard to fall foul of. Yeah. Only if you do something really incredibly stupid, and that's your own fault if you really want to do something incredibly stupid. But what the problem is, a lot of people haven't got the basics in place in the first place. And that's why we all need someone like Gemma to sit down. When you're going to employ people for the first time, you should sit down with someone like Gemma and say, right, how do I get the processes in place? What do I put in? It's really simple.
And what do I need?
And what do I need? Yeah.
Especially because, and you know, the world's changing. Social media is such a big part of our world at the moment. And lots of the amount of businesses that don't have social media policies and don't see the need. Are you one of those?
No, mine's even worse. I'm going to admit to this live on air, right? I'm going to admit to this live on air. I employed someone it was about 2 years ago now. And I offered them a job and I sent them through the contract of employment. And our contract of employment makes reference to the company's internet policy and social media usage, okay? And they read the contract and they came back to me and they went, yeah, it's all fine. Can I see what actually the company's internet policy and social media policy actually is? Because you asked me to agree to it, but I'd like to see what it is. And, yeah. So I rang my people in the office and I went, can I have a copy of it? And they went, I haven't got a copy. So at the time I had like 40 people working for me, so I asked everybody, you got a copy of your contract? Yeah. Have you got the internet? No. So eventually I said, where did we get this from? And they said, oh, you nicked it from your ex-wife when you left the company there. You just used her paperwork. Yeah. So I rang my ex-wife and I said, have you got a copy of your internet policy? And she went, no.
It's exactly that flying by the seat of your pants approach to running a business.
Exactly.
But Gemma is here to mitigate against.
Exactly.
You can even work with people like Paul.
Really?
But what Gemma does for me, which is brilliant as well, is she's got her finger on the pulse with regard to the bigger picture. There's been some really high profile cases recently with Uber and Deliveroo
and falling asleep waiting for the judgment to come out.
But I mean, that is fundamental stuff, isn't it? Are you actually employing somebody when you don't think you are? Or, you know, I mean, where are you as an employer?
Again, this comes out the whole worker status. Is somebody employed or not employed? Or this? I mean, my Hermes, the delivery company, they're in trouble at the moment as well for paying under the minimum wage. And how long have they been going on for? It's amazing they've got away with it for so long, really. Saying that all their couriers are self-employed, and actually they're putting it into question. So, you know, sit down with somebody, even if it's not me, and go through it, because there's lots of questions that there's no one question which makes somebody employed or self-employed.
The problem is so many people think about things when they talk about the law. They think about what they think is fair, and that's meaningless. I have so many arguments with people. They go, yeah, well, it's only fair, isn't it? It's only fair if I could do that. You know, I mean, the law does not judge fairness. The law is not. It's not interested in fairness. It's interested in following the process. And it doesn't matter how unfair the process looks to you. That is not the point.
But also, the world has changed, hasn't it? I mean, how many people now start working for someone when they're young and spend their entire life working for that employer? You know, employment is very transitory now, isn't it? You know, you move from job to job. You know, 6 months, a year here.
Don't get long service. I think long service awards about 5 years.
Exactly.
So, you know, you've got to be kind of on top of all these issues.
So, Gemma, people can come and meet you also at the B2B.
Come and meet me at the B2B stand. What did we say?
48, 49 and 50. Yeah.
And also, you can follow me on the Twitter, which is at Gemma Fairhay. That's not my name, everyone thinks it is, but it's much better.
It's a shortened version.
It's too long.
Fairclough Haynes.
Yeah. So it's Gemma, JEMMAFAIRRHAY. Or visit my website, which is www.orchardemploymentlaw.co.uk.
Fantastic, Gemma. Thank you so much for joining us on the Business Bunker Show again. It's, as always, a pleasure to hear from you and to see you. Do go along and meet Gemma. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised. She's the kind of person that you can talk to and get some really simple answers to your employment issues. As a small business, is exactly what you want. So do go and talk to Gemma at the B2B East Kent in Folkestone on stand 49, because she's going to be in the middle. Just decided.
Should we leave the listener with two key questions? Have you got an employee handbook, and have you got employment contracts? Would they be two good starting points?
And have you read your employment contract? Cool. Gemma, thank you so much for that. I want to come